So I'm just going to go ahead and read this article because, yes, perfect. And I told you so. Richard Hart is a huge frickin' pansy puss, and he's a cheat scammer. And I'm going to continue to show you how he's connected with a cult network of child abusers and child traffickers who worship a demiurge deity that is known as Yaldabaoth or Abraxas, so on and so forth. And in order to appease it, or if you're more psychological science minded, note that it just stands for an aspect of human nature, the darkest side, the more animalistic, the more reptilian mind, the survival mind that we have in us. And it's really a matter of, do you choose to operate from that mind, or do you choose to operate from a higher mind? So the Abraxas, Yaldabaoth, so on and so forth, that deity is just, or the devil is just a representation of that, of a piece of us that you should acknowledge, because if you aren't aware that you have that in you, you're very dangerous. But you don't operate from it, okay? Unless it's like life or death situation, and somebody seriously is about to injure you physically in a darkened alley. Well, then you can let the monster off the chain for a few minutes. All right, so let's just read this. Hexicans panic as Richard Hart's social media ditches Hex. Oh, it's going to talk about how he shut down his Instagram, deactivated his Instagram. I suspect that's also, again, maybe I'm being narcissistic about this, but he said it was to be more respectful. I suspect it's also so that, because by now he knows about me, certainly, picking apart his social media images, any photos he has of himself or podcasts he has of himself, and the symbolism he's using to show people that he's show the people who are in the know that he's a part of their network. So I suspect he's trying to block my having access to, or anybody like me with my abilities, with my background knowledge and foundation and ability to analyze these symbols. He's trying to block us from being able to see those pictures, see this, basically the gang sign symbols that he's throwing up in his photos, so that he can't be, just as easily connected with the network. I've still got plenty of pictures that he put up for his own propaganda that I can pick apart and show you that he's a part of this network. So I guess, deactivate your Instagram if you want, you freaking coward. You are a coward, man. You are not a man. You're a slithery little worm. You're worse than, worms even have some utility. You are not even a worm, Richard. You're less than a worm. Just so you know. So Hexicans panic as Richard Hart's social media ditches Hex. Supporters of the Hex token are panicking after founder Richard Hart scrubbed his social media profiles of any reference to his crypto projects. This week, devoted Hex supporters, Hexicans, noticed that Hart's Twitter profile had deleted any reference to Hex.com and his side projects PulseChain and PulseX. Around the same time, Hart tweeted that he deactivated his bling-heavy Instagram account in order to show more, quote, show more humility and respectfulness, unquote. Here we go, and here's a little screenshot of his little Twitter message. What a coward you are, man. Again, he doesn't deserve to be labeled man. Sorry. Dude, creature from the pit, slither back to the pit, coward. Following some alarmed reaction that Hart's long-expected rug pull of Hexicans had begun, Hart reinserted Hex.com into his Twitter profile and posted a screenshot of the rejigged profile superimposed with the cartoonish scribbles reading, "I love Hex." But many observers remain convinced that Hart's original, unpublicized deletions reflect his sincere desire to distance himself from the controversial Hex project and the long-promised but never delivered PUSS. With the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, currently ramping up enforcement actions against multiple crypto projects, speculation is high that Hart feels his neck may be next on the chopping block. I'd say so. Last November, the SEC issued subpoenas against some high-profile Hex Pulse online promoters that might possess documents and data that are relevant to an ongoing investigation. Hart has always been a shameless promoter of his projects, enticing new investors by flaunting his allegedly unimaginable wealth. This included public claims that he owns the world's largest diamond, quickest Ferrari, and most expensive Rolexes ever made. I have 10 million in watches and 3 million in cars. Yeah, straight up, he shows that shit off. And again, I think I've mentioned in a past video, I'm going to mention it some more. It's likely that these people on paper don't own this stuff. They don't own most of the assets that they have access to. They have access to them because they're in this network and because they know how to finagle the financial system and dump all these assets into LLCs, offshore business accounts and all that, and family trusts where they technically don't own the assets. The assets are kind of being owned by a company, and they run the company, and they can they can use the assets whenever they want. So they still have access to the assets, to the money, to the luxuries. But technically on paper, they don't own them. They're paupers. They're frauds is what they are. By the way, if I can see what you people are doing, what makes you think the big kahuna can't, guys? Creatures, you're so effing stupid. Hart routinely posts photos of himself draped out in hideous but expensive designer outfits. Yes. Thank you. I didn't even write this, but see, I'm not the only one who thinks that he has no taste, none whatsoever. And he looks like a clown. In the apparent belief that sentient beings were actually buying his shtick. Sadly, it seems brainless hordes aren't confined to zombie movies, as the burgeoning ranks of credulous Hexicans amply demonstrate. Many in the do-your-own-research crowd evidently failed to do even a trifling amount of digging into Hart's background, which is filled with enough red flags to equip every bullfighting ring from Barcelona to Guadalajara. Florida man says it all, really. Richard Hart was formerly known as Richard James Schuler, and earned the title of Spam King for issuing unsolicited commercial messages with deceptive subject lines and forged return email addresses. In 2002, the Florida-based Schuler was among those who lost a civil judgment for violating Washington state's anti-spam laws. Bennett Hasselton, the Washington-based webmaster who brought the civil suit against Schuler, later told PanamaGuide.com that Schuler called me on the phone once and admitted that he was the guy who sent the spam and made a lot of money from it. He said that if I sued him and won, that he would do every dirty trick in the world to get even. A few years after that, Schuler moved his operations to Panama, allegedly due to cheaper labor, where he later claimed to have been the victim of an elaborate shakedown by local officials. However, Don Winner, editor of PanamaGuide.com, claimed that Schuler himself told him that the Panama operations focused on creating a way to facilitate corruption and bribe taking in Panama. I have more to say about some of that in a bit. Let me By 2017, after Schuler had reinvented himself as Richard Hart, he discussed plans for an initial coin offering, ICO, in a Telegram group saying he planned to have a token in 30 to 60 days. When another chat member asked, "Don't you have to solve a lot of hard problems before you have a token?" Hart said, "LOL, you don't know much about tokens, I guess." Despite his obvious affinity for ICOs, Hart later claimed that he'd tried everything I could to kill shitcoins and to kill the fucking ICOs, only to conclude that I was wrong and everyone else was right and everyone else made a lot of money. When another member of this Telegram chat, Jonathan Sterling, pressed Hart as to his real identity, Hart begrudgingly posted a link to a PanamaGuide.com article that revealed his original Schuler identity. Clearly irked, Hart went on to threaten Sterling by saying he would tell the Panamanians who'd previously threatened my life that Sterling was my partner now. I'm going to let them know that you're my dude. Please do give them a Google. We're buddies now. So, I don't really want to read the rest of this. I think you guys should just go ahead and read it. I read too slowly anyway, and I don't want this video to be long. But I am going to note something I'm going to comment on. So the parts I've already read have mentioned him threatening people to do, like every dirty trick in the world to get back at them for, bringing him his scams and spams to light, his schemes. He's a schemer. He's a bad person. He chooses to do bad things so that he can profit from it because he doesn't want to get his hands dirty digging the mud and building a house and, harvesting crops in a field. He thinks he's special. He thinks he should be allowed to lie, cheat, and steal and scam people so that he can live the ritzy Ritz life. He's pathetic. He's less than a worm. He's nothing, really. He's vapid on the inside, this creature. I even have trouble calling it a he. That implies humanity is in there somewhere, and it's certainly not. So, if people try to get him into trouble for being the cheating, scamming schemer he is, he turns around and threatens them. And again, he definitely, so that's not humble. That's not a person really who, I don't think, and he lied about being the target of a police scheme in Panama when really he was down there trying to cause all kinds of chaos and nonsense down in Panama with his operations. Corruption, seed corruption was the quote, something along those lines. Corruption was in there, that word. Trying to corrupt Panama. So, I have trouble believing that same creature in any way is interested in being humble. Not for real. He deactivated his Instagram because he knew that there's images on there that I could pick apart for their connection to the occult and to this specific cult that uses these symbols to relay to one another that they are in the club. And again, that club is in the business of child abuse and child trafficking. It's organized and ritualized child abuse and child trafficking. And per Richard Hart's own words, he speaks the world of Tony Robbins, and even claimed in one of his videos that Tony Robbins, his reputation was unbesmirched. And that's untrue, because Tony Robbins already has at least one allegation lodged against him that I've read of in a few sources, that he was sexually inappropriate with a young girl. And also I've seen too much on Tony Robbins, his social media and his propaganda and his little logos that also suggests, he's a part, he's flashing images that are typically used to represent Knights Templar cross, so on and so forth. Things that connect Tony Robbins to some of these secret societies. And as I've said, I strongly believe that this cult group, this cult network, of child traffickers, they operate within secret societies like the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and the Shriners and Order of the Eastern Star, so on and so forth. Again, not accusing every member. I think that there are plenty of members that will be none the wiser of what they're actually supporting. But what you are you're cannon fodder, if that's the case. If you're like, say, a Freemason or a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, and you don't know anything about any of this stuff, you're the cannon fodder. You're the pretty face that they show the world to make themselves look good. But you're not really running things. You're not really making the rules. They might, even if like you're running one of the lodges, they might give you the feeling that you're in charge of some stuff, but you're not. I've already spoken to too many members of Freemasonry that, they've gotten pretty high in the ranks, but they've admitted, there's still like little secret inner circles that they're not allowed into. There's still stuff going on that they don't really quite understand. So, Richard Hart is rotten. He's a piece of trash. Shit, even trash probably has more utility, because I've seen people who can make handbags out of discarded trash. Richard Hart, maybe we could use him as fertilizer one day when he dies. That's going to happen eventually, right? Everything dies eventually. Then maybe one day he'll be useful. Anyway, so you guys should totally go check out this. You read the rest of the article yourself. Sorry I said I'd read the whole article, but I'm not going to. It's called Hexagons Panic as Richard Hart's Social Media Ditches Hex. Boom. And where is it? Yeah. Business section, written by Steven Stadbrook. There should be enough information on here for you to find it. Coin Geek. All right. Signing off.